I can't help feeling like I'm missing something important. Like if I can just get it all down, I could somehow wrangle it into something that made sense. Man, have you ever experienced a moment so completely shattering that time itself just seems to break apart? That really powerful quote perfectly captures the internal monologue of a teenager named Marisol, whose entire reality has been violently fractured by a sudden trauma. It's this desperate attempt to kind of sketch out her memories, trying to freeze moments in time just to regain some control over a world that has completely spun out of her grasp. So, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are absolutely immersing ourselves in the vivid, heartbreaking world of Shannon C.F. Rogers' novel, I'd Rather Burn Than Bloom. And this isn't just your standard coming-of-age story. It is a raw, unflinching look at grief, family, and the explosive ways trauma can hijack our teenage years. So let's step into Marisol's world and discover exactly how she navigates a mind that's basically at war with its own pain. Okay, let's dive into this. First up, the before and after. To truly get Marisol's journey, we gotta look at how the author sharply divides her life into two totally distinct eras. On side A, in the then, we've got this vibrant Filipino-American family life. Making lumpia with friends, going to Bible study, helping out the community, but cross over that psychological boundary into side B, the now, and wow, the contrast is jarring. Marisol is suspended, she's riding the bus hungover, and tragically, she's sneaking vodka in her water bottle just to get through the school day. That vibrant life she once knew, it's been entirely eclipsed by self-destructive behaviors. Now, what's really interesting here is how the visual representation of the story perfectly captures this exact internal shift. When you look at the cover art, on one side you've got these vibrant pinks and rich greens radiating life and energy, much like Marisol's life in the then. But then, that exact same image gets drained entirely into grayscale. This brilliantly visualizes Marisol's current reality. After losing her mom in a sudden car accident, the color, the joy, the meaning, it's all just been completely sucked from her world. She is literally walking around in a grayscale reality. Which brings us to our next point, the weight of guilt. So, how exactly did she get to this numb, grayscale place? Well, to understand that, we really have to look at the crushing weight of her very last interaction with her mom. The literal words that are haunting Marisol's nightmares are, "Why don't you understand anything?" and "Why can't you just leave me alone?" It started as this trivial, everyday argument over a faded, ripped t-shirt, and Marisol hurled those words in total teenage defiance. Her exhausted mom finally just said, "Fine, I'm done," drove off in a rage, and that resulted in a fatal crash. Marisol got exactly what she asked for. She was left alone. And that leads us to seeking oblivion through sabotage. The crucial takeaway here is how this unbearable, suffocating guilt fundamentally changes her, driving this rapid, deliberate descent into self-sabotage. It's like a domino effect. It starts with the accident. Then, desperate for literally any way to shut her brain off, she hooks up with Nick, who happens to be her best friend Yvonne's boyfriend. Obviously, this inevitably leads to a photo leak, massive public humiliation on social media where she's branded a slut, and a physical confrontation at school. When Yvonne confronts her, Marisol doesn't back down. She punches her best friend right in the face. This final explosive act gets her suspended and lands her straight into juvenile detention program. And her sabotage, it doesn't stop there. We already know she sneaks vodka into class in a water bottle to maintain her numbness, but she also emotionally walls off her father and her little brother, Bernie, barely talking to them beyond just sarcasm. And when Nick sneaks to her window after prom, clearly expecting to keep their secret relationship going while throwing her under the bus to save his own reputation, she forcefully rejects him. What we really need to take away here is that these aren't just your cliché acts of teenage rebellion, they are highly calculated attempts to isolate herself. She's making herself an island so she never ever has to feel the pain of connection or loss again. And this brilliantly illustrates our next section, the sticky ball of grief. While she's stuck in this juvie class, Marisol actually experiences a major breakthrough. But it doesn't come from a textbook or a counselor. It comes from this unconventional honor student named Elizabeth Parker. Elizabeth basically forces the suspended students to do this physical character exercise where they have to imagine a sticky ball, this imaginary, heavy, warm object placed somewhere on their body that completely alters how they move. As if she's in a trance, Marisol places this sticky ball right at the base of her throat, right where her clavicle meets her sternum. And the result is just immediate and profound. Marisol realizes the more I move, the more it burrows down into bone, splintering it open. I mean, what a masterpiece of a metaphor by the author, right? It shows us that grief isn't just a mental or emotional state. It is a literal, heavy, physical burden.
It physically alters how you walk through life. Every sway of her arms, every step she takes rubs against this invisible wound, proving that you really can't just think your way out of trauma when your very body is keeping the score. Let's shift gears a bit and look at strained family ties. So, this inability to process her grief naturally spills over into her home life, where the surviving family members are honestly just speaking entirely different emotional languages. You've got Marsal's dad, a white, logical, atheist math teacher who tries desperately to reach his daughter using logic. He uses checklists and forced normalcy. Like, he literally signs her up for driver's education, which is obviously terrifying for a kid whose mom just died in a car crash. He completely misses the emotional mark. Marsal is drowning in pain and needs emotional validation, not a schedule. So when he looks at her with this terrified concern, basically treating her like she's irreparably damaged, it just makes her pull further and further away.
Honestly, nothing symbolizes this massive disconnect better than the telescope. After the mom's death, the dad spends Christmas Day painstakingly putting together this telescope, a gift that was originally meant for the mom, who absolutely loved the planetarium. But when they finally go outside to look at the stars, it doesn't bring them together at all. Instead, gazing up at the vastness of the universe just serves as this stark reminder of their crushing insignificance and the massive empty space left by the mom's absence. The telescope just gets shoved into the garage, acting as a permanent monument to their failure to connect.
Let's move on and see how this builds as we look at finding new connections.
Because, as you'll see, healing rarely comes from forcing old, broken pieces back together. It often comes from unexpected, brand new relationships. And this plays out in 3 really rapid steps. First, during a super stressful school lockdown, Marisol comes face to face with Yvonne, who intentionally wears the exact same faded t-shirt that sparked the fatal argument with Marisol's mom. Yvonne shoves her, and the tension is literally at a boiling point. But then, step 2, Elizabeth Parker, yep, the same girl who led that sticky ball exercise, steps right in, cools the whole situation down, and pulls Marisol away, breaking that destructive cycle. Finally, step 3. Once the lockdown lifts, Elizabeth casually offers to skip the rest of the school day. They end up spotting Marisol's little brother Bernie sneaking off, and they track him to a local hangout called Charlie's Record Store.
By simply accepting Elizabeth's offer and stepping into this record store, something fundamental shifts in Marisol. It's almost like she's clicking sign up for a fresh start. Drinking a spicy mocha, flipping through vinyls she can't even play. In that moment, she isn't the broken girl whose mom died, or the horrible girl who betrayed her best friend. For just one fleeting afternoon, she's allowed to just be a regular teenager again. She realizes that the world hasn't completely ended, and that new friendships, like this cool budding one with Elizabeth, don't actually require her to be fixed first.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative question. What happens when you stop trying to disappear? Marisol spent months actively trying to vanish into alcohol, into fights, into the grayscale world of her own guilt. But as she stands in that record store, feeling the music and tasting the coffee, she's forced to confront the terrifying, beautiful reality that she is still here. She's still alive. The pain is absolutely still there, but so is the possibility of blooming again. I highly, highly encourage you to check out Shannon C. Rogers' phenomenal book to see exactly how Marisol navigates this painful but incredibly necessary awakening. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.